You know, people ask, how did I, a prosecutor, come to be such a strong critic of the criminal justice system? And it's in part because I felt my work as a prosecutor was to lock up black men. And it's also because I had this very dramatic experience at the time that I was a prosecutor. I graduated from locking up black men to working on public corruption. I had the biggest case in the Justice Department, a case against a United States senator. And while I was working in that case, I got locked up and prosecuted for a crime I didn't commit. It was a silly little misdemeanor about a parking space, a dispute. My neighbor claimed that I'd run up to her and pushed her. And so the police swarmed down and arrested me for a misdemeanor, simple assault. Now, everyone in the neighborhood knew that this person was mentally ill. She was always making up things, but the police just saw a young black man and just took me off to jail. And so being in the system, but also literally being a prosecutor, I knew how to work the system. So I knew that the most important thing wasn't that I was innocent. The most important thing was to find the best lawyer in town. So her name was Michelle Roberts. She's now the executive director of the National Basketball Players Association. But before that, she was known as the best lawyer in D.C. And my case worked out fine. My case worked out fine because I hired the best lawyer in D.C. My case worked out fine because I had legal skills. I literally prosecuted people in the courtroom where I was being prosecuted. My case worked out fine because I had social standing. I knew how to look like the kind of black man that a DC juror would not want to send to jail. And finally, my case worked out fine because I was innocent. But that didn't seem like the most important reason. In many ways, I would rather have been guilty with a great lawyer than not guilty with a lawyer who wasn't able to make my case. And so when I thought about what had happened to me, I wanted other folks, especially brothers, but really anybody who's caught up in the system, to learn how to have a better outcome. And so in my book, Chokehold, I have a chapter that's real talk. And it's not the kind of corny stuff that you're going to hear in civics class. This is the reality that if you're a black man, the system is out to get you. I'm saying that as a former prosecutor, somebody who worked inside the system. And so these are the things that you have to do if you want to have a better outcome. And so in my book, Chokehold, I talk about things that make the police pay attention to black men. And some of it's just tragic. If it's more than 3 black men on a corner, more than 3 black men in a car, a black man in a car with a white woman, you could just go down the list. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to follow these rules, but I'm just keeping it real about what it is that makes the police focus more on you. And I take it from there. So what if you get stopped? What are things that you can do to make sure that that doesn't turn into an arrest? From the ways that you have to talk to the cops, to things that, again, you might not hear from other folks, but if you know a police officer, if somebody in your family works for the city, let the cop know that. That makes a difference. If you have a job or if you're a student, let the police officer know that. Okay, well, what if it ends up that you get locked up? I talk about how to choose your lawyer, about whether to plead guilty or not, if you go to trial, simple stuff like how you should dress. A lot of folks don't know this. Things like that make a big difference. So that chapter in Chokehold, If You Catch a Case, is based on my own experience getting locked up. I don't want anybody else to go through that process. But the reality is every year millions, literally millions of black folks do. And so it's real talk from a prosecutor about how to not only survive that system, but how to have the best outcome that you can.